The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zelthera system and found hell waiting for them. Commander Ryan Walsh stood on the bridge of the Retribution and watched the tactical display fill with red contacts. 40 Cortex warships hung in orbit around the burning planet. Below them, the surface glowed with fires that could be seen from space. "My God," whispered Commander Tony Phillips from the weapons station. "They are bombing civilian cities." Ryan's jaw tightened as more reports came in from his sensors. The Cortex fleet was not just attacking military targets. They were systematically destroying hospitals, schools, and refugee centers. It was genocide, pure and simple. "Sir," called Lieutenant Amy Brooks from the communications station, "I am picking up escape pods being hunted down by Cortex fighters. They are shooting families trying to flee the planet." That was enough. Ryan had seen enough wars to know the difference between combat and murder. This was murder. "All ships. This is Retribution Actual. We have a clear case of genocide in progress. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. Repeat, weapons-free. Show these bastards what happens when you hurt children." Captain Elena Rodriguez, commanding the assault carrier Wolverine, was the first to respond. "Copy that, Retribution. Iron Eagle and I will take the fighters. You handle their big ships." "Roger, Elena. Tony, target their command ship. Let them know we are here." The Cortex had detected the human arrival, but they were not worried. 40 ships against 16 was good odds, especially when the 16 were from some unknown primitive species. Captain Drac Moore, commanding the Cortex 7th Fleet, actually laughed when he saw the small human force. 16 ships, he said to his tactical officer. "Are they trying to surrender? Perhaps they want to negotiate for the right to collect the survivors." "Sir," his sensor operator reported, "the unknown ships are powering weapons and moving to attack formation." Drakmore was amused. "They want to fight? Very well. Destroy them quickly. I want to finish the bombardment before the next planetary rotation." The Cortex fleet began to turn toward the humans, confident in their numerical advantage. They had conquered dozens of worlds with this same fleet. No one had ever seriously challenged them. That confidence lasted exactly 12 seconds. The Retribution opened fire first. Her main guns, designed to crack asteroids in the mining fields of Sol, punched through the lead Cortex cruiser like it was made of paper. The alien ship split in half and exploded, lighting up space with debris and radiation. "Direct hit," Tony reported calmly. "Target destroyed. Moving to next target." The second Cortex ship died just as quickly. Then the third. The human battleship moved through space like a predator, her weapons reaching out to touch enemy ships. With precise, devastating fire. Captain Drakmore stopped laughing. "What kind of weapons are those? Our shields are not even slowing them down." His tactical officer was pale with fear. "Sir, I have never seen anything like this. Their energy output is off the scale. Each shot has the power of our heaviest bombardment. Missiles." The human fleet spread out in a formation that looked chaotic to alien eyes, but made perfect sense to anyone who had fought in the asteroid fields. The destroyers danced between the larger Cortex ships, their smaller guns picking off, weapons and engines with surgical precision. The carriers launched fighter squadrons that moved like angry hornets, protecting the human capital ships while hunting down Cortex fighters. Captain Elena Rodriguez watched her pilots work from the bridge of the Wolverine. Commander Steve Martinez led the first squadron, his fighters moving in three-dimensional patterns that confused the alien pilots. The Cortex flew in straight lines and rigid formations. The humans flew like they were born in space, using every trick that generations of asteroid miners and system patrol pilots had developed. "This is Martinez," came the report over the communications. "Enemy fighters are breaking off from the refugee ships. Looks like we got their attention." "Good hunting, Steve," Elena replied. "Make sure none of them get away." Back on the Retribution, Ryan watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. The Cortex had expected easy prey and found apex predators instead. But he was not here just to win a fight. He was here to save lives. "Amy, open a channel to all Cortex ships." "Channel open, sir." Ryan's voice carried across space to every alien ship in the system. "Cortex Fleet, this is Admiral Ryan Walsh of the Earth Colonial Defense Force. You will cease all bombardment of the planet immediately. You will withdraw from this system and never return. This is your only warning." Captain Drakmore's response came back seconds later. "Human, you may have surprised us, but you are still outnumbered. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick." Wrong answer. Ryan turned to Tony. "All ships, execute asteroid field protocol. No survivors." The asteroid field protocol was a tactic developed during the corporate wars around Jupiter, when pirate fleets tried to hide in asteroid belts. Human forces would systematically destroy every rock large enough to hide a ship. It was methodical, brutal, and absolutely effective. The human fleet moved like a machine of war. Each ship had a target. Each target was destroyed with cold efficiency. The Cortex tried to fight back, but their weapons had been designed to bombard defenseless planets, not to fight a real military force. Captain Elena Rodriguez coordinated the assault from her carrier. "Iron Eagle, take the ships on the left flank. Destroyers Charlie and Delta, screen for the battleship. All fighters, priority targets are anything still shooting at the planet." Commander Ben Hayes, leading the Marine Assault Force, watched the battle from the Wolverine's hangar bay. His troops were ready to land on the planet as soon as the orbital battle was won. They had studied the intelligence reports about the Vorthak and knew they were dealing with a gentle species that had never fought a war. "Sir," one of his sergeants asked, "what do we do with Cortex survivors?" Ben's face was hard. "We follow the rules of war. Prisoners who surrender will be treated properly. Anyone still fighting when we land will be treated as an enemy combatant." The battle lasted 18 minutes. When it was over, the Cortex 7th Fleet no longer existed. A few ships had tried to flee, but the human destroyers were faster and had hunted them down in the outer system. Captain Drakmore's flagship had surrendered when it became clear that continuing to fight meant certain death. Ryan stood on his bridge and looked down at the burning planet. The bombardment had stopped, but the damage was already done. Entire cities were in ruins. Millions of peaceful aliens were dead or homeless. "Elena, begin landing operations. Get the Marines down there and start search and rescue. Amy, try to contact any surviving Vorthak forces." "Sir," Amy reported, "I have a weak signal from somewhere in the wreckage around the planet. It is Vorthak, and they are asking if we are really human." Ryan smiled for the first time since arriving in the system. "Tell them yes, we are human. Tell them the cavalry has arrived." Across the galaxy, alien intelligence services recorded the impossible battle. 16 ships had destroyed 40 in less than 20 minutes. The beings from the Deathworld had not come to conquer or enslave. They had come to rescue people they had never met. The green skies of Zelthera Prime burned red with fire. Commander Zethka pressed his 4 hands against the control panel as his ship shook from another blast. The Vorthak officer's large black eyes reflected the flames that covered his home. World below. His people were dying, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The Korthex Empire had come 3 days ago. Their massive gray ships appeared in the sky like storm clouds, blocking out the twin suns. They demanded surrender. When the peaceful Vorthak refused to become slaves, the bombardment began. Zethka's communication station was the last one working on the entire planet. Every other transmitter had been destroyed. His small ship floated in space, hidden behind the wreckage of what used to be Zelthara's defense fleet. 20 ships had tried to protect their world. Now only pieces of metal drifted in the darkness. "Sir, we have another message from the surface," called Lieutenant Kethra from across the tiny bridge. Her voice was barely a whisper. "The city of Velthara has fallen. The Korthex are taking prisoners." Zethka closed his eyes. Velthara was where his family lived. His mate and their 3 younglings had been there when the attack started. He had not heard from them since the first day. In his heart, he feared the worst. The Vorthak were farmers and traders. They had never fought a war. Their ships were built to carry crops between planets, not to fight. Their weapons were tools for clearing land, not for killing. They were gentle, beings who believed that all life was precious. The galaxy knew them as the ones who could grow food anywhere, who shared their knowledge freely with hungry worlds. Now they were being slaughtered like animals. "Commander," Kethra said softly, "the long-range transmitter is still working. Should we call for help?" Zethka opened his eyes and looked at the star charts on his screen. The Galactic Council was too far away. Even if they wanted to help, it would take weeks for any ships to arrive. The nearby systems had already been conquered by the Korthex, or were too afraid to fight them. There was only one place left to try. One world that the galaxy whispered about in fearful voices. A small, blue planet on the edge of known space, the Deathworld. Most species in the galaxy believed it was just a scary story. A planet so dangerous that nothing should be able to live there. The few traders who claimed to have met the beings from that world told impossible tales. They said the planet was covered in poison air that would kill most aliens in minutes. They said it rained liquid that could burn through metal. They said the ground itself would shake and split open, swallowing entire cities. But the strangest stories were about the creatures that lived there. They called themselves humans. The traders said they were tall and had only 2 arms, 2 legs, and small eyes. They had no natural weapons like claws or poison. They seemed weak and soft. But somehow they had not only survived on their impossible world, they had conquered it. The stories said humans were violent beyond belief, that they fought each other constantly and had built weapons that could destroy entire planets, that they had learned to fight by battling their own world every single day. Some said they were demons. Others said they were the most dangerous, predators in the galaxy. But there was one other story. A trader named Velkar had met a human ship once. He had been attacked by pirates and was badly hurt. The human ship could have ignored him. Instead, they saved his life and asked for nothing in return. When Velkar asked why they helped him, the human captain had said, "Because it was the right thing to do." Most aliens thought Velkar was lying. No species helped others without wanting something back. But Zethka remembered that story now. His people were going to die anyway. What did he have to lose? Kethra, set course for the galactic rim. Coordinates, 127.4 by 89.6. His lieutenant looked confused. "Sir, there is nothing out there but empty space. There is a world there, the human world. We are going to ask them for help." Kethra's mandibles clicked in fear. "Commander, The stories say they are monsters. What if they decide to attack us too? Zethka looked at his screen one more time. On the surface of his planet, he could see the fires spreading. Entire cities were burning. His people, who had never hurt anyone, were being murdered for refusing to become slaves. Then we will die fighting instead of hiding, he said. Begin transmission. The communication array hummed to life. Zethka had learned the human language from the old trading records. It was a harsh, complicated way of speaking, but he had practiced it many times. He opened the channel and began to record his message. This is Commander Zethka of the Vorthak Republic, broadcasting on all emergency frequencies. Our world is under attack. The Korthex Empire is killing our people. We have no weapons that can stop them. Our children are dying. He paused, thinking of his own family. Somewhere down on that burning world, his younglings might still be alive. They might be hiding in some cave or basement, scared and hungry, waiting for their father to come home. We do not know if anyone will hear this message. We do not know if anyone will care. But we have heard stories about your people. They say you are dangerous. They say you are fighters. They say you protect the weak. Another explosion rocked his ship. Through the viewport, he could see Korthex fighters hunting down the last escape pods. Families trying to flee their dying world were being shot down like insects. If there is any truth to those stories, if you have any mercy in your hearts, please help us. We are peaceful people. We have never hurt anyone. We do not deserve this. Our coordinates are attached to this message. Please, we are begging you. Help us! Zethka ended the transmission and sent it toward the distant blue world. It would take days to reach them if anyone was even listening. By then, his people might all be dead or enslaved. But he had done everything he could. Now all he could do was wait and hope that somewhere in the darkness, someone would hear their cry for help. As his ship drifted through the wreckage of his fleet, Zethka watched his world burn and prayed to the old gods that the stories about humans were true. Agent Veltar of the Galactic Council's Intelligence Division had been tracking unusual transmissions for 3 days when the impossible news reached his desk. The Korthex 7th Fleet was gone, completely destroyed, by 16 ships from an unknown species called humans. Veltar was a Solarian, a species known throughout the galaxy for their analytical minds and careful attention to detail. He did not believe in impossible things, but the evidence was sitting right in front of him on his datapad. "Computer, show me everything we know about this human species," he said to his office terminal. The response was frustrating. Insufficient. Data for analysis. Recommend additional intelligence gathering. Veltar pulled up the galactic star charts and found the coordinates that intelligence had traced back from the battle site. Sector 847, a small yellow star with 9 planets. The 3rd planet showed signs of industrial civilization, but the readings made no sense. "These atmospheric readings cannot be correct," he muttered. No species could survive in that environment. According to the sensors, the human homeworld had oxygen levels that would be toxic to most galactic species. The atmosphere contained water vapor at concentrations that would create deadly storms. The planet's surface temperature varied wildly from regions cold enough to freeze methane to areas hot enough to melt lead. But the strangest reading was the radiation levels. The planet's star was a Class G yellow dwarf that pumped out radiation that would cook most known life forms. Yet somehow the humans had not only survived, but built a technological civilization. Veltar sent out orders to every intelligence agent in known space. He wanted information about humans, and he wanted it now. What came back over the next few Days read like a collection of horror stories. Agent Krixta reported from the neutral trading station at Deep Space 7, have confirmed contact with human trading vessel. Crew appeared to be standard bipedal carbon-based life forms, but medical scans revealed impossible biology. Their blood contains iron compounds that would be toxic to most species. They consume food that includes plant matter containing alkaloids that would kill a Vorthak in minutes. Agent Motar filed a report from the Centauri trade routes. Observed human cargo ship conducting routine operations in asteroid field. Environmental conditions included hard radiation, micrometeor impacts, and gravitational shears that would destroy most vessels. Human ship operated normally with minimal shielding. Crew appeared unaffected by conditions that would require emergency evacuation for any other species. But the most disturbing report came from Agent Yilseth at the Galactic Rim. Made contact with human exploration vessel. Offered standard greeting gifts of refined foods and entertainment media. Humans politely declined food, stating it would probably kill them. Examined human entertainment media. Request immediate psychological support. Human recreational activities include simulated warfare, competitive violence, and musical compositions with aggressive themes that would traumatize most sapient species. Veltar compiled all the reports into a single document and sent it to the Galactic Council's Security Committee. The response came back within hours. Classification level, extreme threat. Monitor, but do not approach. Recommend avoiding all contact until further analysis completed. Meanwhile, on Zelthara Prime, Commander Zethka stood in the ruins of his capital city and watched human soldiers distribute food to refugee camps. The humans moved with efficiency that amazed him. In just 2 days, they had established field hospitals, communication networks, and supply lines across the planet. Marine Sergeant Amy Brooks knelt beside a group of young Vorthak who had been separated from their families during the bombardment. She was trying to explain to them that the scary-looking humans were actually there to help. "Why did you come?" asked one of the younglings in broken galactic standard. "We have nothing to give you." Amy smiled and offered the child a nutrition bar from her pack. "We came because you needed help. That is what we do." The youngling looked confused. "But what do you get in return?" "We get to know that you are safe. That is enough." Elder Sithara, the senior surviving member of the Vorthak government, had been asking the same questions. She met with Admiral Ryan Walsh in what remained of the Planetary Council chambers. "Admiral Walsh, my people are grateful beyond words for what you have done. But we must ask why. What does your species want from us?" Ryan looked out the broken windows at his Marines helping to rebuild a school. "Elder Sithara, let me tell you something about humans. We come from a world that has been trying to kill us since the day we first stood upright. Earthquakes, storms, diseases, predators, even the air and water can be dangerous. We learned to survive by helping each other." He turned back to her. "When we heard your distress call, we did not think about what we might gain. We thought about families hiding in basements while their world burned. We thought about children who were scared and hungry. And we decided that we could not let that continue." Sithara's large eyes reflected her confusion. "But surely you want something, trade agreements, territory, resources." "We want you to be free to live your lives in peace. That is all." Reports of the human rescue mission spread across the galaxy faster than hyperspace travel. On a dozen different worlds, alien leaders tried to understand what they had just witnessed. The hegemony of Krill had been planning to attack the Vorthak farming colonies next month. Those plans were quietly shelved when they learned that the humans might respond to any distress calls. The Stellar Consortium, which made profits by protecting weaker species in exchange for favorable trade deals, suddenly found that several clients were asking uncomfortable questions about the protection they were paying for. Most disturbing of all, slave markets across 3 star systems began to shut down as rumors spread that the humans actively hunted slavers. Captain Steve Martinez filed his report from the destroyer Defiance as his ship patrolled the outer edge of the Zelthara system. "Admiral, we are detecting multiple long-range sensor contacts. Looks like somebody is watching us." "How many ships?" Ryan asked over the communication link. "At least a dozen different sensor signatures. Different species, staying well outside. Weapon range. They are just observing." Ryan was not surprised. The galaxy was learning that there was a new player in the game, and nobody was sure what the rules were anymore. On the galactic capital world of New Geneva, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. Representatives from 47 species gathered to discuss the human situation. "They destroyed an entire fleet," argued Senator Velkan of the Turian Republic. 40 ships eliminated in minutes. We must assume they are a threat to galactic stability." "But they made no territorial demands," countered Representative Liranel of the Asari Confederacy. "They simply rescued the Vorthak and left. That does not sound like the behavior of conquerors." Senator Krextar of the Solarian Union stood to address the assembly. "Fellow delegates, we have studied the available data. The humans appear to be exactly what they claim to be, a species that responds to distress calls. The question is not whether they are dangerous. The question is whether we want them as friends or enemies." The debate continued for hours, but one thing was becoming clear. The galaxy had been operating under certain assumptions for thousands of years. The strong conquered the weak. The advanced enslaved the primitive. Might made right. The humans had just proven those assumptions wrong. They had used their strength to protect the weak. They had used their advanced technology to free the enslaved. They had shown that might could be used to make right, and that terrified half the galaxy while giving hope to the other half. In the end, the Galactic Council passed a resolution to monitor the human situation with extreme interest and to avoid any actions that might provoke conflict with the human military. What they really meant was that they were all afraid to find out what would happen if the humans decided they did not like someone. 6 months after the battle at Zelthara Prime, the galaxy had learned a new truth. There was a fleet out there that did not conquer worlds or demand tribute. Instead, it answered distress calls, and when that fleet arrived, the bullies ran away. Captain Dan Cooper stood on the bridge of the fast attack ship Lightning as it dropped out of hyperspace near the Gentle Minds colony. The reports had been desperate. Haraki slavers had attacked the peaceful research station, planning to capture the brilliant scientists who lived there. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Carl Davis from the sensor station, "I am reading 15 Haraki ships in orbit around the colony. They appear to be loading prisoners into cargo holds." Dan's face went hard. The Haraki were one of the worst slaver organizations in the galaxy. They specialized in capturing intelligent species and selling them to work in dangerous mining operations. Most prisoners did not survive more than a year. "Time to remind them that slavery went out of style," Dan said. "All stations, battle alert, weapons free." The Lightning was one of 12 new ships that Earth had built after Zelthara. Smaller than the big battleships, but faster and more maneuverable, they were designed to respond quickly to emergency calls. Dan's ship could cross half the galaxy in 4 days and arrive ready to fight. Communications, signal the Haraki fleet. Tell them they have 60 seconds to release their prisoners and leave the system. The response came back in the form of weapons fire. The Haraki clearly thought one human ship would be easy prey. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The lightning danced through space like a fighter pilot's dream. Dan had learned to fly in the Saturn rings, where one mistake meant being crushed by ice chunks the size of mountains. Dodging Haraki missiles was almost too easy. Target their cargo ships first, Dan ordered. We need to get those prisoners free. Lieutenant Sarah Kim at the weapons station locked onto the first slaver vessel. Firing. The Lightning's guns had been designed by humans who understood that sometimes you needed to stop something very quickly. The Haraki cargo ship lost power and began drifting, but its hull remained intact. The prisoners inside would survive. Next target, Dan called out. It took 8 minutes to disable the entire Haraki fleet. Not destroy, disable. The human weapons were precise enough to knock out engines and weapons without killing the crews. When it was over, 15 slaver ships floated helplessly in space while the Lightning moved in to rescue the prisoners. 3 star systems away, similar scenes were playing out. The destroyer Peacekeeper had responded to an attack on a farming world. The cruiser Guardian was helping evacuate civilians from a planet under siege. The assault ship Liberator was hunting pirates who had been raiding refugee convoys. Admiral Lisa Carter watched the reports come in from her command center on Luna Base. In 6 months, the human fleet had responded to over 30 distress calls. They had freed thousands of slaves, stopped dozens of attacks on peaceful worlds, and never asked for anything in return. The galaxy was starting to call them the fleet that terrorizes the galaxy. But they only terrorized bullies. Admiral, reported Commander Kate Sullivan, the head of Earth's new diplomatic corps, we have another message from the Galactic Council. They want to meet. Lisa was not surprised. The Council had been trying to contact Earth for months, ever since the news of human military actions had spread across known space. But Earth had been too busy responding to emergency calls to talk. About politics, what do they want? They are offering us membership, full status as a galactic species, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. Lisa raised an eyebrow. And what responsibilities would those be? Kate smiled. Peacekeeping duties. Apparently, the Council has decided that having humans around is better than trying to stop us from helping people. The meeting took place on Citadel Station, the massive space platform that served as the galactic government's headquarters. Admiral Carter brought a small diplomatic team, including Commander Kate Sullivan and Captain Elena Rodriguez. The council chamber was an impressive sight. Representatives from over 50 species sat in a huge circular room, each delegation arranged according to their species' preferred environment. Some breathed different gases, others required different temperatures, and a few existed in forms that humans could barely understand. Council Speaker Tevos, an elegant Asari with blue skin and strange head tentacles, stood to address the human delegation. Admiral Carter, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I welcome you to Citadel Station. Your people have made quite an impression in recent months. Lisa stood at attention, wearing her dress uniform with all the medals she had earned in the asteroid. Wars. Speaker Tevos, Earth is honored by this invitation. We understand you have a proposal for us. Indeed, the Council has voted to offer humanity full membership with a unique role as our peacekeeping force. In exchange for this honor, we would ask that you continue doing what you have already been doing. Respond to threats against peaceful species. Protect the innocent. Stop those who would harm others for profit or pleasure. Counselor Valerne, a thin gray alien with large eyes, leaned forward. We must be honest, Admiral. Your military capabilities far exceed what any single species should possess. But your actions have shown that you use that power responsibly. We would rather have you as allies than wonder if you might someday become enemies. Lisa looked around the chamber at all the alien faces watching her. Some looked hopeful, others looked nervous, a few looked downright scared. She understood why. Speaker Tavos, Earth accepts your offer of membership, but we want to be clear about something. We did not start helping people because we wanted political power or galactic recognition. We did it because it was the right thing to do. That will not change, regardless of our official status. We would expect nothing less, Tavos replied. There is one other matter. We have been receiving reports that several aggressive species have begun to reconsider their expansion plans. The hegemony of Krill has withdrawn from 3 systems they were planning to invade. The Stellar Consortium has released over 2,000 indentured servants. It seems that news of human peacekeeping operations has had an interesting effect. Captain Elena Rodriguez spoke up. What kind of effect? Counselor Sparatus, a tall bird-like alien, answered. It appears that many species have decided that the risk of attracting human attention is not worth the profit from their illegal activities. Several slaver organizations have simply shut down operations rather than risk confrontation with your fleet. Lisa smiled. Good. Maybe we can stop a few wars before they start instead of just cleaning up the mess afterward. The formal ceremonies took 3 days, but the real work began immediately. Earth was assigned sectors of space to patrol. Human ships would respond to distress calls and investigate reports of illegal activities. The Council would provide intelligence and diplomatic support. Captain Laura Bennett stood on the bridge of her new ship, the Hope's Light, as it patrolled the border between Citadel space and the lawless regions beyond. She had been a cargo pilot before joining the peacekeeping force, but she understood what was at stake. Captain, called her tactical officer, Lieutenant Mark Johnson, we are receiving a distress signal from the Kepler system. Colony ship under attack by unknown hostiles. Laura did not hesitate. Set course for Kepler, maximum speed. As the Hope's Light jumped to hyperspace, its departure was detected by monitoring stations throughout the region. Within minutes, the news was spreading across subspace communication networks. The humans were coming. In the Kepler system, the attacking ships detected the incoming hyperspace signature and quickly identified it as human. The attack fleet immediately broke off and fled to hyperspace before the Hope's Light even arrived. Laura's ship dropped out of hyperspace to find the colony ship safe and the attackers gone. Ma'am, her communications officer reported. The colony. Ship is asking if we scared off the pirates just by showing up? Laura laughed. Tell them yes. Apparently our reputation precedes us. Across the galaxy, the message was spreading. If you hurt innocent people, if you enslave the weak, if you profit from others' suffering, the humans would come for you. And when they arrived, you had 2 choices, surrender or be destroyed. It was a simple message, but it was changing everything. The galaxy was learning to fear the right things. Lieutenant Jake Morrison was drinking his 3rd cup of coffee when the alien distress signal came through. He had been working the night shift at Earth's Orbital Defense Command for 2 years, and most nights were quiet, ships coming and going. From the mining stations, routine patrol reports, the usual boring stuff that kept humanity's small space fleet running. But this was different. The computer flagged it as an unknown language, so Jake ran it through the translation program. When the words appeared on his screen, He nearly dropped his coffee. "Holy shit," he whispered, then looked around to make sure his supervisor had not heard him swear. Lieutenant Commander Patricia Wells was strict about proper language on duty. Jake read the message 3 more times to make sure he understood it correctly. Some alien species was under attack. Their world was being destroyed. They were asking for help. And somehow, they had sent the message to Earth. "Ma'am," Jake called to his supervisor. "You need to see this." Patricia walked over and read the message over his shoulder. Her face went pale. "Are you sure this is real? Not some kind of test or joke?" "I ran it through every filter we have. It's real. And look at the transmission source." Jake pointed to another part of his screen. This came from over 400 light-years away. Someone out there knows about us. Patricia grabbed the secure phone and dialed a number. "Admiral Carter? Sorry to wake you, ma'am, but we have a situation. You need to get down here right now." Admiral Lisa Carter arrived at the command center 20 minutes later, still in her civilian clothes. She had been Earth's top military commander for 3 years, ever since the colonies had been established. She was known for being tough, smart, and willing to make hard decisions. "Show me," she said without wasting time on greetings. Jake played the alien message for her. Admiral Carter listened without saying a word. When it was over, she stood quietly for a long moment, thinking. "Ma'am," Patricia said carefully, "what do we do? We have never made contact with aliens before. Our orders are to protect Earth and the colonies, not to get involved in alien wars." "Our orders," Admiral Carter said slowly, "are to protect innocent people from those who would harm them. That is what we swore to do when we put on these uniforms." She turned to Jake. "How long would it take for our ships to reach those coordinates?" Jake did some quick calculations. "About 6 days at maximum hyperspace speed. But, ma'am, we would need to send most of our fleet. And we do not know anything about these Cortex aliens or how powerful they are." Admiral Carter nodded. "Contact Luna Base. Tell Commander Ryan Walsh to prepare the first fleet for immediate departure. Full battle configuration." Patricia looked worried. "Admiral, are we really going to war over some aliens we have never met?" "Lieutenant Commander, let me tell you something about humans that apparently the rest of the galaxy does not understand yet." Admiral Carter's voice was hard as steel. "We do not like bullies. We do not like people who hurt the innocent. And we especially do not like people who kill children." 2 hours later, Luna Base was buzzing with activity. The human fleet was small by galactic standards, but every ship was built for war. Humanity had learned to fight by surviving on a world that tried to kill them every day. Their ships reflected that harsh education. The heavy battleship Retribution was the flagship. 400 meters of armor and weapons designed to fight in the asteroid belts around Jupiter where one mistake meant death. The assault carriers, Wolverine and Iron Eagle, carried marine landing forces trained to fight in the deadly environments of the outer planets. 12 destroyer escorts completed the fleet, fast ships built to hunt pirates in the dangerous regions beyond Neptune. Commander Ryan Walsh stood on the bridge of the Retribution as his crew prepared for departure. He was a veteran of the asteroid wars, where human corporations had fought brutal battles over mining rights. He had seen what humans could do when they were angry, and he was very angry right now. "Sir," called his communications officer, "we are receiving updates from Earth intelligence. They have been analyzing the alien message." "What do they say?" "The Vorthak appear to be a peaceful farming species. No military history. The Cortex Empire has been conquering worlds across 3. Star systems. Intelligence estimates they have enslaved over 2 billion beings. Ryan felt his hands clench into fists. Slavers. He had dealt with human slavers before, back when Earth's corporations had tried to use forced labor in the asteroid mines. Those days had ended when the Colonial Defense Force was created. Sir, his tactical officer, Commander Tony Phillips, reported from across the bridge. All ships report ready for departure. Weapons are loaded, Marines are briefed, and hyperspace coordinates are locked in. Ryan looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, innocent people were dying while he stood here talking. That was going to stop right now. All ships. This is Retribution Actual. We have received a distress call from a peaceful species under attack by slavers. We are going to respond to that call, and we are going to remind the galaxy why you do not pick on people. Smaller than you. He paused, thinking about the message they had received. Some alien commander, probably scared and desperate, had sent a plea for help into the darkness. Ryan was going to make sure that plea was answered. I know some of you are wondering why we are risking our lives for aliens we have never met. The answer is simple. Because it is the right thing to do. Because if we do not help them, who will? And because when bullies learn that somebody will fight back, they usually think twice before hurting anyone else. Ryan gave the order. All ships, jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, heading toward a distant world where people were dying. None of them knew that their departure had been detected by alien sensors scattered throughout human space. None of them knew that news of their mission was already spreading across the galaxy faster than they could travel. And none of them knew that their arrival would change everything. In the depths of space, alien intelligence agents watched the small human fleet disappear and tried to understand what they had just witnessed. The beings from the Deathworld were going to war, but not to conquer or enslave. They were going to war to help someone else. Across 3 star systems, the news spread like wildfire. The Deathworlders were coming. And for the first time in galactic history, nobody was sure if that was a good thing or a bad thing. 1 year after joining the Galactic Council, humanity faced its first real test. The Batarian hegemony, a species known for their aggressive expansion and use of slave labor, had decided that the humans were becoming too much of a problem. Commander. Frank Miller received the intelligence report while his ship, the Defender, was patrolling the terminus systems. The Batarians were massing a fleet of over 200 ships near their home system. Their target was the human colony on New Terra. Sir, reported Lieutenant Beth Parker from the communications station, Admiral Carter is requesting immediate conference with all ship commanders. Frank activated the holographic display in his ready room. Admiral Carter's image appeared, along with 15 other ship captains scattered across the galaxy. People, we have a situation, Carter began without preamble. Intelligence indicates the Batarians are planning a massive strike against New Terra. They want to prove that humans can be beaten, and they have chosen our newest colony as their target. Captain Elena Rodriguez, now commanding the heavy cruiser Vengeance, leaned forward in her chair. How many ships are we looking at? Over 200 confirmed, possibly more. They are calling it the largest fleet assembled in the terminus systems in 50 years. Commander Ryan Walsh, still commanding the Retribution, asked the obvious question. What are our orders? We are going to defend New Terra, but this time, we are not just fighting slavers or pirates. This is a full military engagement against a major galactic power. The Council is watching to see how we handle a real war. Captain Dan Cooper spoke up from his ship. Admiral, with respect, 200 ships is a lot more than we faced at Zelthara. Are we sure we can handle this? Carter's expression was grim but determined. Captain Cooper, let me remind you of something. We are not just defending a colony. We are defending the idea that peaceful people deserve to live without fear. If we back down now, every slaver and conqueror in the galaxy will think humans can be intimidated. She paused, looking at each captain in turn. Besides, we have something the Batarians do not have. We have been fighting to survive our entire existence. They have been fighting to conquer defenseless victims. There is a difference. The human fleet assembled at the new Terra system over the next 3 days. 16 ships against a Batarian, armada that would outnumber them 12-1. But these were not the same ships that had fought at Zelthara. Human shipyards had been working around the clock, incorporating lessons learned from their first galactic conflicts. The new ships were faster, more heavily armed, and designed specifically for fleet combat. The battleship Retribution had been upgraded with experimental weapons that could punch through any known armor. The carriers Wolverine and Iron Eagle now carried twice as many fighters, flown by pilots who had learned to fight in 3 dimensions. Most importantly, the humans had learned to fight as a fleet. They had developed tactics that took advantage of their superior technology and training. They moved like a single organism, each ship supporting the others in complex patterns that confused alien commanders. Admiral Carter established her command post on the orbital station above New Terra. The colony below had 60,000 civilians, including families who had come to this distant world looking for a new life. She was not going to let them down. "Admiral," reported her intelligence officer, Commander Gary Webb, "Batarian fleet is approaching the system. They will arrive in approximately 6 hours. Any word from the Galactic Council? Official position is that this is an internal dispute between member species. Unofficially, Speaker Teva sent a message saying the entire galaxy is watching this battle." Carter nodded. She had expected that. The Council could not officially take sides in a conflict between member species, but everyone knew this battle would determine humanity's future role in galactic politics. "Signal all ships. Formation Alpha 7. We will meet them at the edge of the system." The Batarian fleet dropped out of hyperspace in a massive formation that stretched across hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Admiral Balak, commanding from his flagship dreadnought, looked at the small human force with satisfaction. 16 ships, he said to his tactical officer. "The humans are either very brave or very stupid. Perhaps both, sir. Orders? Standard attack formation. Overwhelming firepower. We will crush them quickly and then bombard their colony until they surrender." The two fleets approached each other across the darkness of space. Every sensor in the system was focused on the coming battle. On New Terra, civilians watched the sky and prayed. On dozens of other worlds, alien species waited to see if the humans could back up their reputation. The battle began when the Batarian fleet opened fire at maximum range. Hundreds of missiles streaked across space toward the human formation. It looked like certain destruction for the smaller force. Then the humans did something no one expected. They scattered. The tight formation exploded into 16 different vectors, each ship moving on a seemingly random course. The Batarian missiles, targeted at a formation that no longer existed, mostly missed their targets. "What are they doing?" Admiral Balak demanded. "This is chaos!" But it was not chaos. It was a tactic developed in the asteroid belts of Sol, where fleet actions were impossible, and every ship had to fight alone while coordinating with others. The human ships moved in a 3-dimensional dance that kept them out of each other's firing lines while maximizing their own weapons coverage. The Retribution led the charge, her massive guns reaching out to touch Batarian ships across impossible distances. Captain Ryan Walsh had learned to shoot in the Jupiter system, where targets moved at orbital velocities and missing meant waiting hours for another shot. Batarian ships, designed for bombarding planets, were easy targets. The carriers Wolverine and Iron Eagle launched their fighters in coordinated waves. The small craft moved like angry insects, swarming over Batarian ships too large to effectively defend against such small, fast targets. Captain Elena Rodriguez coordinated the destroyer, screened from the Vengeance. Her ships moved in and out of the larger battle, picking off damaged Batarian vessels and preventing any from breaking through to attack the colony. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the Batarian fleet was scattered wreckage drifting through space. Admiral Balak's flagship had surrendered after losing all weapons and engines. Only 30 Batarian ships had escaped, limping back toward their home territory. The humans had lost no ships. 3 had taken damage, but all were still combat capable. "Admiral," reported Commander Webb, "we are receiving communications from across the galaxy. News of the battle is spreading fast." Carter looked at the tactical display showing the wreckage of the Batarian fleet. "What kind of communications?" "Congratulations from the Vorthak. A request for assistance from a colony in the Attican Traverse. 3 different species asking if we would be interested in mutual defense agreements." She was not surprised. The galaxy had just learned that humans could not only fight pirates and slavers, they could defeat a major military power in direct combat. "There is one more message," Webb continued, "from Speaker Tivos. The Council is calling an emergency session to discuss expanding our peacekeeping mandate." Carter smiled. "Tell the Speaker we would be honored to attend. But first, we have a colony to protect and refugees to help." On New Terra, the civilians emerged from their shelters to see human ships patrolling their skies. Children pointed up at the fighters that had saved them, while their parents tried to understand what they had just witnessed. A small human fleet had just defeated a force 10 times larger. But more importantly, they had done it to protect people they had never met, on a world most of them had never visited. The galaxy was learning that humans did not fight for conquest or glory. They fought for the simple idea that everyone deserved to live in peace, and they were very, very good at fighting. 5 years after the first human ship had answered an alien distress call, Fleet Admiral Lisa Carter stood before the Galactic Council as humanity's newest member. The chamber that had once been filled with suspicious whispers about the Deathworld species now watched her with respect and gratitude. "Fleet Admiral Carter," Speaker Tivos began the ceremony, "on behalf of all member species, the Galactic Council formally recognizes humanity as the guardian authority. Your mandate extends across all Council space and beyond, wherever innocent beings require protection." Carter wore her dress uniform, the same one she had worn to her first Council meeting. But now it carried new decorations. The Galactic Peace Medal, the Cross of Valor from 6 different species, and the simple silver star that marked her as a guardian. She had received that last one from a young Vorthak who had been rescued in the original operation at Zelthara Prime. "Speaker Tivos, humanity accepts this responsibility with honor. We will continue to serve as we always have, as protectors of those who cannot protect themselves." The applause that followed was genuine. In 5 years, the Guardian Fleet had responded to over 300 emergency calls. They had stopped wars, freed slaves, defeated pirates, and rescued countless civilians. More importantly, their mere existence had changed how the galaxy worked. Criminal organizations now thought twice before starting operations. Aggressive species reconsidered expansion plans. Slavers found it almost impossible to operate profitably, when Guardian ships might appear at any moment. After the ceremony, Carter met with the senior Guardian commanders in a private briefing room. Captain Elena Rodriguez, now commanding the supercarrier Enterprise, Captain Dan Cooper with his fast response squadron, Commander Ryan Walsh still leading the heavy battle group, and a dozen other officers who had become legends across the galaxy. "Congratulations, Admiral," Elena said with a smile. "So what is next for the galaxy's most famous fleet?" Carter activated a holographic display showing the current deployment of Guardian forces. Over 100 ships now carried the Guardian insignia, spread across 50 star systems in patrol patterns that covered most of known space. What is next is that we keep doing our job. But I want to talk to you about something that concerns me. We are becoming too successful. The room went quiet. Captain Cooper spoke up. "Ma'am, how can protecting people be too successful?" "Because we are creating dependency. Species that used to defend themselves are now calling for Guardian assistance. Instead of handling problems locally, we are supposed to be the backup, not the primary response." Commander Walsh nodded thoughtfully. "The Turian hierarchy asked us to handle a border dispute with the Batarians last month. A diplomatic problem, not a military one." "Exactly. We need to start teaching other species how to protect themselves instead of always doing it for them." Carter changed the display to show a new organizational chart. "I am proposing the Guardian Academy. We invite officers from allied species to train with us, learn our tactics, our principles, our methods. Then they go back to their own fleets and teach others." Commander Kate Sullivan, now head of Guardian Diplomatic Corps, leaned forward. "Admiral, that could work. Several species have already asked about joint training exercises." "There is something else," Carter continued. "We are going to start sharing our technology, not weapon systems, but defensive technologies. Better shields, faster engines, improved sensors. If we can make everyone stronger, we will not need to fight as many battles." The meeting continued for 2 hours, planning the future of galactic peacekeeping. But Carter's mind kept returning to a simple truth. The best victory was the battle you never had to fight. 3 months later, the first class of the Guardian Academy graduated on Luna Base. 30 officers from 12 different species had learned to think like Guardians. They understood that strength was meant to protect the weak, not exploit them. Among the graduates was Lieutenant Zethka, son of the Vorthak commander who had sent the original distress call. He had joined the Vorthak Defense Force, and specifically requested Guardian training. "Admiral Carter," he said after the graduation ceremony, "my father always said that humans answered our call because it was the right thing to do. I want to learn how to do the right thing, too." Carter smiled and handed him his Guardian certification. "Lieutenant, the most important thing you can learn is that doing the right thing is not about being human. It is about being willing to put others before yourself." Across the galaxy, the effects of Guardian influence continued to spread. On Rannoch, the Quarian people had rebuilt their homeworld with Guardian assistance and now operated their own peacekeeping squadron. The Krogan, once known as violent mercenaries, had formed the Krogan Honor Guard to protect civilian populations in their territory. Even former enemies had changed. The Batarian hegemony, after their defeat at New Terra, had undergone a political revolution. The new government had outlawed slavery and requested Guardian assistance in hunting down the remaining slaver organizations. But perhaps the most significant change was in how the galaxy thought about conflict. The old assumption that might made right had been replaced by a new understanding. Might made the responsibility to protect right. Captain Laura Bennett, now commanding the exploration vessel New Horizons, discovered this change firsthand during a mission to the Galactic Rim. Her ship had detected signs of industrial civilization in a previously unexplored system. "Captain," reported her science officer, Lieutenant Paul Martinez, "we are receiving what appears to be a distress signal from the fourth planet." Laura immediately thought of Zelthara Prime and the desperate message that had started everything. "Analysis? The signal appears to be from a pre-spaceflight civilization. They are under attack by what looks like a raiding fleet." Laura did not hesitate. "Signal the raiders. Tell them they have one chance to withdraw peacefully." The response was not what she expected. Instead of defiance or aggression, the raider. Commander sounded nervous. "Human ship. We were not aware this system was under Guardian protection. We are withdrawing immediately." Laura watched on her sensors as 6 raider ships broke off their attack and jumped to hyperspace. The pre-spaceflight civilization below would never know how close they had come to disaster, or that they had been saved by a reputation built over 5 years of consistent action. "Ma'am," Martinez said with amazement, "they ran away just because we are here. That, Lieutenant, is what victory looks like, when the bullies are too scared to start trouble in the first place." Back on Earth, in the Guardian Command Center, Admiral Carter reviewed the monthly reports. Piracy was down 80% from pre-Guardian levels. Slavery had been reduced to isolated incidents that were quickly dealt with. Wars between council species had virtually ceased. But the most important statistic was one that did not appear in any official report: the number of species that now had their own Guardian-trained peacekeeping forces. The idea of protecting others was spreading faster than any fleet could travel. Commander David Park entered her office with the latest personnel reports. "Admiral, we have a new problem. Applications for Guardian service are still increasing, but emergency calls are decreasing. We have more volunteers than missions." Carter smiled. "David, that is not a problem. That is the goal. When we have more people willing to help than people needing help, we will know we have succeeded." She stood and walked to the window overlooking the Guardian shipyards. New vessels were still being built, but now many were destined for allied species rather than human crews. The technology and principles that had started with a desperate defense of Earth's colonies were now being shared across the galaxy. "Besides," she continued, "there are always new frontiers to explore, new species to meet. And somewhere out there, someone might be sending a distress call into the darkness, hoping that someone will hear them and care enough to help." Carter thought about Commander Zethka, alone in his damaged ship 5 years ago, broadcasting a plea for help toward a world he knew only through scary stories. He had gambled everything on the hope that the frightening humans might actually be heroes. He had been right. The galaxy had learned that the most terrifying thing was not a fleet that conquered worlds. It was a fleet that showed up when you called for help, asked for nothing in return, and made it clear that hurting innocent people would no longer be tolerated. The fleet that terrorized the galaxy continued its patrols, but now they terrorized only those who deserved to be afraid. For everyone else, the sight of Guardian ships in their sky meant the same thing it had meant since that first desperate battle at Zelthara Prime. Help had arrived. And as long as there were Guardians in the galaxy, it always would. 2 years after the Batarian defeat, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The human Guardian fleet, as it had come to be known, now operated from bases scattered across Citadel space. Their ships appeared wherever innocent. People were threatened, and their reputation preceded them like a sword hanging over the heads of every would-be conqueror. Captain Laura Bennett sat in the captain's chair of the Hope's Light as her ship patrolled the terminus systems. These were the lawless regions beyond Council space, where pirates and slavers had once operated freely. Now they operated very carefully, always watching their sensors for the distinctive energy signatures of human ships. "Captain," called Lieutenant Mark Johnson from the tactical station, "we are receiving multiple distress signals from the Corliss system. Appears to be a major slave auction under attack." Laura raised an eyebrow. "Under attack by whom?" "Unknown, ma'am. But the slavers are calling for help, and someone is systematically destroying their facilities." Laura stood up and walked to the main display. The Corliss system was deep in slaver territory, a place where the worst criminals in the galaxy conducted their business. If someone was attacking them, it could be another criminal organization or... "Ma'am," Johnson continued, "I am reading human energy signatures in the system." Laura smiled. "It looks like someone got there before us. Set course for Corliss. Best speed." When the Hope's Light arrived, they found the heavy cruiser Liberator finishing the destruction of the last slaver facility. Captain Mike Torres had led a precision strike that freed over 3,000 prisoners while eliminating one of the largest slave markets in the galaxy. "Laura," Mike's voice came over the communications. "Good to see you. We could use some help with prisoner transport. What is the situation? We hit them during their annual auction. Slavers from 6 different organizations were here with their merchandise. We have beings from over 20 species who need medical attention and transport home." Laura looked at the tactical display. The slaver fleet had been completely destroyed, but the logistics of helping 3,000 freed slaves would be enormous. "Mike, this is going to require more than 2 ships. I am calling for support." Within 6 hours, 8 human ships had arrived in the Corliss system. The hospital ship Mercy, the transport carriers Freedom and Liberty, and 5 escort vessels to make sure no one interfered with the rescue operation. Commander Kate Sullivan, now Earth's senior diplomat, arrived aboard the diplomatic vessel Ambassador to coordinate with the freed prisoners. She had become fluent in over a dozen alien languages and was skilled at helping traumatized beings from different species. "Captain Bennett," Kate reported after her initial assessment, "we have individuals here who have been slaves for decades. Some do not even remember their homeworlds. This is going to take time." Laura nodded. The human fleet had learned that winning battles was only the beginning. The real work was helping the victims rebuild their lives. As the rescue operation continued, news of the Corliss raid spread across the galaxy. On the Citadel, the Galactic Council held another emergency session. "This makes the 15th major slaver operation the humans have destroyed this year," reported Councilor Valerne. "Their effectiveness is remarkable, but some species are becoming concerned about their methods." Speaker Tivos looked around the chamber. "What concerns specifically?" Councilor Sparatus spoke up. "The humans operate with minimal oversight. They identify targets, attack them, and only report to us afterward. Some of our members worry about accountability." "Are you suggesting that freeing slaves is somehow wrong?" asked Councilor Benezia. Her blue skin flushed with indignation. "Of course not. But the humans destroyed an entire system's criminal infrastructure without consulting anyone. What if they make a mistake? What if they attack legitimate operations?" The debate continued for hours, but Speaker Tivos had already made up her mind. The human fleet was the most effective peacekeeping force in galactic history. In 2 years, they had ended more conflicts and freed more slaves than the Council had managed in the previous century. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Carter was dealing with a different kind of problem. The human fleet was growing too fast for their training facilities to handle. "Admiral," reported Commander David Park, her new logistics coordinator, "we have over 200 applications for ship commands this month alone. Every naval academy in human space is reporting record enrollment." Carter looked at the personnel reports on her desk. Young humans from every colony world wanted to join the Guardian fleet. They had grown up hearing stories about the rescue at Zelthara, the defense of New Terra, and the liberation of Corlus. To them, being a Guardian was the highest calling possible. What about ship construction? The yards at Luna, Mars, and Titan are working at full capacity. We are launching 2 new ships every month, but demand is still outpacing supply. Carter nodded. The problem was not finding people willing to fight for justice. The problem was building enough ships for all of them to serve on. "David, send a message to the colonial governments. We need to expand our shipbuilding capacity and contact the engineering schools. We need more people who can design and build Guardian-class vessels." 3 days later, Admiral Carter received a visitor she had not expected. Ambassador Donald Udina, the human representative to the Galactic Council, arrived at Luna Base with news from the Citadel. "Admiral, the Council has made a decision. They want to expand the Guardian mandate." "Expand it how?" Udina activated a holographic display showing a map of known space. "They want human fleets to patrol all of Citadel space, not just the border regions. Complete peacekeeping authority across 57 star systems." Carter studied the map. "It would require tripling the size of the Guardian fleet and establishing major bases throughout the galaxy. What is the catch, Ambassador?" "No catch. The Council is unanimous. Even species that were initially suspicious of human methods now recognize that you have reduced piracy, slavery, and illegal warfare by over 70% in your patrol areas." Carter was quiet for a long moment. When humanity had first received that desperate message from Zelthara Prime, she had never imagined it would lead to this. They had simply wanted to help some aliens who were being slaughtered. Now they were being asked to become the galaxy's police force. "There is one more thing," Udina continued. "The Council wants to establish a formal structure. You would be promoted to Fleet Admiral and given command of all Guardian operations. The position would come with a seat on the Galactic Council itself." "They want a human on the Council?" "They want you on the Council. Your reputation, Admiral, has made you the most trusted military commander in galactic history. When you say you are coming to help, people believe you. When you say someone needs to stop hurting others, they listen." Carter walked to the window of her office and looked out at the ships being built in the Luna yards. Each one represented humanity's commitment to protecting the innocent, regardless of species or location. "Ambassador, tell the Council that humanity accepts their proposal, but make sure they understand our terms. We do not conquer. We do not occupy. We do not rule. We protect. That is all we have ever done, and that is all we will ever do." "I will make that clear, Admiral." As Udina left, Carter opened a communication to all Guardian ships across the galaxy. Captains and commanders from dozens of vessels appeared on her screen. "People, we have just been given the greatest responsibility in galactic history. The Council wants us to keep the peace across all of known space. That means every slaver, every pirate, every tyrant, and every bully in the galaxy is now our problem." She paused, looking at the faces of the men and women who had volunteered to risk their lives for strangers. "I know that sounds overwhelming. But remember why we started doing this. We heard someone calling for help, and we decided to answer. That has not changed. The only difference is that now there are more people calling for help, and we have more ships to answer them." Captain Laura Bennett spoke up from her ship. "Admiral, what are our orders?" Carter smiled. Same as always, Captain. When someone needs help, we go help them. When someone is hurting innocent people, we make them stop. When someone thinks they can prey on the weak because they are strong, we show them what real strength looks like. The transmission ended, and Admiral Carter returned to her desk. Outside her window, another Guardian ship was preparing to launch. Soon it would join the fleet that terrorized bullies and gave hope to victims across the galaxy. The fleet that had started with 16 ships, answering a desperate plea, was about to become the guardian of galactic civilization itself.